I am Daryl H.W. Lewis, creator and founder of Concrete University. Concrete University. First of all, I'd like to thank the creator for giving me the opportunity and the purpose and the reasoning behind putting together Concrete University. As you know, the purpose of this is to save lives from the jail cell hell. But as we do on every show, we're going to begin with our intro music to give people enough opportunity and enough time for them to tune in to get this good stuff that we got coming tonight and forevermore. So roll with us through the theme music. Let's get it started. Concrete University, classes in session. It's Concrete University. So before you enroll, come on, log in. Come on with it. Listen up to Dean Excel. Be free, be free. And you will know before you go. Never have to see how prison can really be. Listen, learn and practice consistency. This is prison literacy. Concrete University. Concrete University. Excel and be free. Ain't no place to be. Excel, be free. Concrete University. Concrete University. Concrete. Concrete University. Yeah. Oh, concrete. It's Concrete University. University. Come on, where you at? Hop on there. Let me know you're paying attention. Let me know you're watching. Where my people at? Be free. Excel and be free. Thank you again for tuning in to Concrete University. I am Dean XL Be Free for the purpose of this show. The purpose of Dean XL Be Free and the whole Concrete University podcast, live stream, the reels, and everything that we do at this particular moment is to again save souls from the hells and the clutches of a jail cell. As you know, our motto here is know before you enroll. Don't enroll in order to know. And as we go deeper into this, and as more and more we go over this and over this, that will be a recurring theme. Know before you enroll. Don't enroll in order to know. So today's show will pretty much be a recap of what we've covered so far in the last few weeks. We're going on the 6th week right now. And I'd like to recap a few things for all those people who are coming in for the first time, as well as for those who want to share this. And maybe this will be a reminder to them to understand again what this whole thing is about. As I've said before, and I've said on many shows and will continue to say, this is not about me, because as I call myself Dean XL Be Free, for the most part, I've graduated from the University of Concrete. However, as we know, there's an extension that goes with that called parole. So I've not completely completed my full undergraduate studies. So I'm still continuing to grow. And as I grow, I want others to grow as well. I want to remind us how this whole thing came about. This came about when I was in like my 20th year or so, and I was sent back to the county jail in order to try to fight my case again. I was going for an appeal, and I was sent back to the county jail. And when I got back to the county jail, I was someone messed up and didn't put together the transfer order to get me from the county back into the prison. And so while I was standing there trying to get an understanding, why did someone drop the ball and didn't send the transfer order? I was talking to a person that was in classification, and they didn't send the proper paperwork. As I was going back and forth with these people about why they kept me down there longer and didn't get me back to the prison, and this is one of the things that happens within prisons. As I was waiting to find out why, a couple guys were sitting next to me, and they was like, "Listen, dang, OG, why you tripping off going back to prison? You'd rather be in prison than to be in the county jail." And so from there, I realized that these young men and many of us are unaware of what the difference between county jails are and what the difference is what prison is like. So I went back to my cell after having this conversation with these young men, and I began jotting out 101 reasons why a person shouldn't want to ever go to jail or to do crimes or commit crimes or get into the mindset of criminality in order to try to risk their life to do whatever it is that they're doing to end up in prison. So the title of the book is Concrete University, as you know, and everything that I teach through these reels and through these live streams is coming from the book. Of course, the book is unpublished and it's not yet complete because I'm still working on the vital parts of it, which is understanding this whole system of parole. So I just wanted to reiterate and tell you what the goal was, and it is to save the souls of those who may be headed towards the penal system, because the penal system, as well as prison, the whole situation can be gut wrenching, and not only gut wrenching, it can test your soul, it can test your faith, your religion, it can test a lot of that. So if you have a better understanding, if you really choose to go that route, if you better have a better understanding of what you're facing, maybe by chance and by hope and by prayer, that it can detour you from wanting to go down that hell, that hellacious place. In fact, the prison that I was in, Lansing Correctional Facility, better known as Kansas State Prison, when I first got there, but they changed with little names. There was a book written about it called "The Devil's Front Porch," and so you can still look this book up. It's still in circulation, although it's quite old. But the Devil's Front Porch, the Devil's Front Porch is the closest thing to hell. So this is why here we say we're trying to save souls. So when I've said this before, a couple of people said, well, "Man, you're not a religious dude. You ain't no preacher. You ain't no imam. I don't know who you think you are talking about. You're gonna save somebody's soul." The only person that can save your soul is yourself. But even with that, you have to have the proper information, proper guidance in order to do that. So basically, what I'm here for is to try to help you to not go down that path. I lived that path for many years, and it's just terrible. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So know before you enroll, don't enroll to know. So next, I have to go to my shout outs and give my shout outs to my core three. That's Eric and Alexis Bronson, who are my relatives, for my brother, my sister, and my cousin, as well as for my engineer, who is also my significant other, Renee Rivera. So we have Renee Rivera, Eric Bronson, and Alexis Bronson. Shouts out to y'all. This couldn't be possible without you. I also have to thank Team Bronson, give a shout out to Team Bronson. That's my whole entire family on my father's side, as well as my whole entire family, the Lewis clan on my mother's side. These are the people that struggled with me, fought with me, lived with me through this entire incarceration. As I said before, I did 12,975 days, which comes out to 426 months, which equals 35.6 or 35 and a half years. And these people hung with me. So I have to give shouts out to them each and every single time. Because again, if it had not been for the support that I had from them, I would not have made it through that. And there's so many, so many, so many, so many brothers and sisters that are inside of these cages, and they don't have support systems, and some of them even lose their mind because they don't have anyone to reach out to, and it's a place that creates hopelessness. So once you become hopeless, you become dangerous, and there's no telling what you may do to yourself and or others. So I thank them for that. Also, brother Artist Swafford Jr., he's one of the brothers that's been a mentor to me from the time he met me on the inside. Once time we used to didn't get along at all, and you know um, things happened, and we changed our enemyship into a friendship and into a brotherhood. So I always thank him because he's always there. I'm hoping to see him pop up in the chats tonight. And there may be a little discrepancy as well because we changed the show from last Wednesday. It's usually Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock on both YouTube and Facebook Live. However, for some circumstances, which we'll get into later, we had to change it to Thursday. And I just hope that a lot of people have not gone and wait until Thursday to check in and see. So I also have to thank my brother. Shout out to brother Low Top Damon is what I call him. He's one of my guides as well. He always runs back and forth with me over ideas and situations to deal with this whole this whole message and this whole revelations and this whole thing that we're trying to do together. He's a brother that's an advocate as well. One of my relatives I must thank also, Michael Cheney. He's done a lot of things for me. He's also questioned me and giving me accolades and stuff. Another brother I must thank is Patrick Stewart. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, just giving the shouts out. But again, when somebody sticks their hand out to you and reaches their hand out to you in order to help you up, you have to remember those people. Never step on it. They have a saying, toes you step on, because those are the same toes that you'll smell on your way down. So I always have to be mindful of the people that help me to get where I've gotten or where I'm trying to get. Also, Eric Stafford, as I said, he's a brother that's deep in the history, and so eventually, when we get a podcast, we hope to have that brother on to give us the history of prisons. Because again, as I say in the reels and say, history is best qualified to reward our research. Even though we don't like history and we don't like to pay attention to what's going on historically or what happened in our past, you cannot have a present or a future if you don't have a past, which means history. And again, I will continue to say as well that I see you, Brian DePriest. I see that's another one of my big brothers, Big Rock, Big Brother Siddiqui, and everything. I see you, brother. See you, cousin Eric. He's on tuned in as well, which is great. But just remember that it's very important to have history, and that's why I keep this brother Eric, Stafford, close to me, because he's one of those that reminds me of the days gone by, so I don't have to repeat those days. Brother Dark Knight, again, he's one of the brothers that's helped with some of the lighting and other situations. And a brother, one of my coaches and one of my mentors, Robert Ransberg, he tunes in every week and he always has something to say after the show, to try to help me, get things, proper. So finally, with just individual shouts, that's all. But I have to, let my audience know that there was a sixth annual symposium did by Reaching Out from Within, which is an organization which is inside of the whole entire Kansas prison system, as well as in North Carolina and now over into Missouri. And this organization has been one of the organizations that helped me to get my hope back in order to, continue my struggle for fighting to get out of prison. They're also the people that helped me, giving my voice to tell me and let me understand and know that I did matter. This is the organization also that taught me that I was bigger and more valuable than the mistakes that I made in the past. So I have to give shouts out to Sue Ellen Freed, who was one of the co-founders of that organization. May she rest in peace. But they had a sixth annual symposium, in her name and in her honor for this organization, which is a pretty big organization. You can go on the website under Reaching Out from Within, and you will can find them, and you can get a better understanding with what that's all about. They're not only people that go inside the prisons, but they also have programs to help people that are transitioning. So if you have loved ones that are transitioning to that, this may be something that you want to tune into and be a part of. So I have mentors that I got from there. Those mentors are Greg Winship, Marty Resch, Jason Miles, and also we have a counselor that was mine that was here at the symposium to ask questions to me and let the world know that it's not the world, but people know that I did make a change. He remembered me as a knucklehead and saw my growth and development. So I have to give a shout out to Mr. Michael Gibbons. He's one of my counselors on the inside. So with regards to all that, the final person that I must give a shout out to with regards to the whole Reaching Out from Within organization is Eliza Barr. She's the executive president of that organization right now. I have to give shouts out to her because her brother out there, but her brother was recently released as of last week, and I could just see the joy on her face. You'll never know how good it feels for you to see someone that you care about have that homecoming and coming home. And it's very impactful on both for the family as well as the person that's being released. So that's a great thing. So shout out to Eliza Barr and all of her people. Also, my final shout I want to give out to those people over there at DKC, Decarcerate KC, Sister Amina, as well as Dylan and Brother Heru. These are some people that embraced me once I came out and everything. They understood that I had, a story to tell as well. We've had, training classes. We've had a lot, but these are some great activists when it comes to, just listen to the name, Decarcerate KC. So they're in the Kansas City area and they do a lot of stuff. So you may want to check in and see what they're doing as well. So let's get on with the show. Pretty much this week, we're going to have a recap of a lot of things that, we've discussed already. So people are like, well, I don't want to listen to no regurgitated stuff. If other people didn't hear it, they should have been there when, you started saying the stuff. I don't want to hear that stuff over and over again, but there's a reason. See, one thing about progress, it comes with the process. Everything has to be consistently done and managed over and over and over and again. So we don't want to stay stuck in one area. We want to continue to move forward. However, there's some certain things that when I get the comments that come afterwards, sometimes you don't see the comments that show up exactly on the screen or what have you. But when I do my analytics and I listen to some of the stuff, like there's so many other organizations that we'll get to that support this. I follow them, they follow me, and it's a great partnership in that regard. But there's just stuff that has to be repeated over and over. That's how the mind works. We repeat things, and through repetition, that's how we begin to learn, or at least retain some of the knowledge and information that we have. I'm waiting to see Sister Linda Wilson, who's a principal and a great friend of mine from grade school all the way up and stuff. And she always has something that she wants to chime in and try to encourage me, has helped me as well. So the phrase for the day, what actually will be the phrase for the week. We try to have a phrase, every week in order to get your mind, focused on something positive. That's another thing I have to share about this group reaching out from within. When you're a part of this organization, one of the things that you must do when you first come into their collective gathering is you must give a positive thought. So when you're inside of a prison cell and you have to go to a place where somebody's telling you to say a positive thought, initially you're like, man, I've been locked in jail. I ain't about to go in there and be trying to sit around these people talking about something positive. Well, remember, we all must remember, especially of those who have younger people and youth. Last week we did a show on the youth and how we could help the youth. But one thing we must remember as well as way, philosophy and thought goes, the things that you think becomes the things that you say. The things that you say becomes the things that you do. The things that you do on a consistent basis become habits. And once those habits are formed and everything, that creates character. And your character leads to your destiny. So thoughts lead to speech, speech lead to actions, actions lead to habits, habits lead to character, and character leads to destiny. So these are some of the tools that were, imparted and given to me. I thought about those over and over, but if you pay attention to it, I believe it's more true than not. So think of that: thoughts, speech, actions, habits, character, destiny. What you think about is what you'll become. You hear people always saying you are what you eat. Well, you are what you think. If you think about negativity stuff all the time, all the time, all the time, you can't produce nothing but negative stuff. So the phrase for this week is, if you do the same things you've always done, you'll get the same things you've always gotten. If you do the same things that you've always done, you'll get the same things you've always gotten. As you know, I repeat these things 3 times. If you do the same things that you've always done, you'll get the same things that you've always gotten. So, in order to have a different plight, whether you want to, whatever it is that you want to be, if you keep on doing the same stuff over and over and over and it's not getting you where, maybe you should change your thinking and try to do something different. Because again, if you're doing the same stuff over and over, they have a saying in therapy and some therapeutic communities, which is the definition of insanity. They say insanity is when you do the same things and expect different results. So if you bump your head and keep bumping your head, and then you expect to do something, get a different result from you just bumping your head on the wall, this is where they believe that insanity starts. Or I mean, they could be using it loosely, but insanity is believing that you can do the same things over and get a different result or expect a different result. So we must think about all these things. You say, what does this stuff have to do with prison? Well, again, as I remind myself of these things, I'm speaking to those who may have loved ones on the outside. We're speaking to those on the inside. If you have a person that's on the inside and they keep getting disciplinary reports and they keep getting, in trouble, which causes them to stay in prison longer, maybe these are some of the things that you should share with them. If you keep on doing the same stuff, if you don't make a change. See, one thing I also learned while I was incarcerated is we don't like the word change. Nobody likes to hear the word change. I'm not about to change what I'm doing because I'm comfortable and I'm satisfied the way that things have been going. I can handle the consequences. I'm not about to do no changing. Well, let's try a different word. Let's try the word evolve. Let's take whatever it is. Revolve is when things go in circles. Everything has a revolution. Things go in circles and circles and circles. But to evolve is to go in circles, but continue to go forward as you go. We talked before about making a 360-degree change. Means if you start here and you change 360 degrees, you end up in the same place. Well, we're talking about 180s and then another 180 and then another 180 and then another 180 until we start to go spiral upwards. This is what it's about. So the phrase again is, if you do the same things you've always done, you'll get the same things you've always gotten. So you can go into your comments right now. I see you, Big D. I see you, Big Edward Dacey. I see you, brother. Um, um, we'll get to at the end. I'm going to do more with the Q&A because that's one of the things that I've been forgetting. I haven't gotten deeply into people's conversations. So I'm not going to give a necessarily lesson today, but I'll just run over quick things. And anything comes to your mind, anything that you want to discuss about prison, because it was my understanding that I was going to go like, step by step by step by step. But shoot, there's some people that need to know stuff about the end result versus the early morning stages and stuff. So if there's any questions that you have that I could answer, I mean, I don't know everything about prisons, but if there something I would want to know about, is there anything you want to discuss during this show specifically, just let me know. Just chime in and let me know what you want to discuss about. I mean, discuss, and we will start a dialogue back and forth. That's one of the things that I hope for this thing to do is be interactive, where I can converse and put some information out there, and you'll come back and forth with me. So, cell therapy. We have a part of this called cell therapy, and what I do is, what's up, Wick? What's happening? What's up, bro? I'm here. I see you. I appreciate you. As Dancy says, but you're a good spirit, man. So good energy draws good energy. That's right. I was speaking to a person the other day about karma. We are discussing, what goes on with karma. Usually, when we're talking about karma, usually always people say bad karma. Something's gonna happen bad to you. If you did this, oh, karma's gonna get them. Karma's a bitch. Karma, karma, karma. But the thing about karma is, like the brother speaking about energy, karma has a positive side to you. You've heard, the sayings of the proverbs. You reap what you sow. If you put negative energy and negative karma back out into the world, it's going to come. It's going to come back to you. If you put positive things and positive spirit in there, again, like I'm saying, things don't just happen overnight. Everything is a process. When you take a look at, a little small acorn, it turns into a big acorn tree. It's a little one of the smallest nuts, but it turns into something that's great and big. There's a process that has to go into this. And this is one of the reasons, the process and trying to eliminate the middle parts. We want to say I want to know ABC and try to get to XYZ without having the other 20 alphabets to go in with that. That's right, 26 of them, 20 that go in with that. And this is one of the things that the crime mind has. Let me take the shortcuts. Let me make the easiest ways out. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, like I always, say and reiterate that I'm not a prayer book. I didn't haven't always done things the correct way. And most times now, when it comes to something legal, I ain't messing around like that because I can't go back that way. I refuse. But I don't always make the right decisions. I don't make always make the right choices, and that's what life is about: facing decisions, facing decisions that you have to make. They may have consequences, but they may have blessings as well. So my thing is to try to get the best out of life that I possibly can. And if that being the case, the way that you keep, the knowledge that you have, keeping the knowledge that you have is no good. Keeping the information, the love, the spirit, the blessing that you have to yourself, that's no way to live. You have to give that stuff out in order to get something back. Like I said before, if you have a cup that's full of water, you're so happy about this full cup. Eventually, that water that's in there, though it may have been good to drink at a time, it will eventually become stale. You either have to drink it or pour it out in order to get more. So a lot of times we get so greedy, we just want to hold on what it is that we got and be where we are with what we got, and we don't take the risk or whatever. And I'm not meaning risk is in a bad way, but we don't take the chance. They say that life is full of risk, and you don't live until you've taken the risk. And I'm not talking about necessarily anything that's illegal. I'm talking about a risk with your life. Come out of your shell. Sometimes we get into a comfort zone and we refuse to come outside of that comfort zone. Well, there's so many people that are in prison and wish that they could come outside of those gate parts, and they can't do that. So for yourself as a free person, you have to take steps to move forward to enhance your freedom. So some of the things that we've discussed, and like I said, if there's any ideas or anything that you want to come in with the Q&A right now, and we'll have a conversation, we'll converse back and forth, I'm down with that, and then we'll get back into our lessons. So I'm going to start backwards with some of the things that we should recap. Last week we had a show that dealt with 25 years and under, meaning people that are 25 and under, meaning speaking to the youth. Now I'll continue to do that because the youth, as the late great, excuse me, as the late great Whitney Houston saying, "I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way." Y'all know the story. Y'all know how it go. But we have to guide those children. I get into this thing that upsets me. We're so busy saying that the youth are no good. We can't handle them. We can't speak to them. We can't talk to them. They unruly. They're not listening and all that. But I mean, this is about our future, the youth, and this is not cliche. If we can't handle the youth and everything, how can we handle a future of of adults that are that are probably sometimes in worse than they are. See, they say that these young fools eventually will turn into old fools, and this is not me trying to call anyone a fool, but you know the process again. So if we're trying to help something, if we want to nip something in the bud, if we want to help those adults, we have to start with the children. It's true that they are our future. I watch my children now, and I remember how when they were little small, children, they're adults now, and thank goodness that they had great grandparents that stood in there to make sure that they were steered and they were guided the proper way. Now, when I say proper way, I'm talking about proper as well as far as, being good people. This is what it's about. Because right and wrong is relative. Something that might be right to somebody might be wrong to someone else. One man's ceiling is another man's floor. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So I'm not going to get into the whole this is right, this is wrong, but I'm saying you choose right and wrong that's best for you. And I'm telling you, Living in a cell 23 hours a day, 1 hour a day to stretch your leg is no way to live. Trust and believe that. You don't have to learn by experience all the time. You can listen to someone else's experiences and learn from that. So hopefully through my experiences, but those brothers that's chiming in, the experiences that they've gone through, that somebody else don't have to go through that. I believe it should be more taught about and talked about, and I hope to be able to go to speak to more schools and things of that nature. I just did KU, and I've done other couple. I've done at least two or three colleges or whatever. Why I speak either via Zoom or go to visit and try to give an understanding of what thing is about. But it's not just about the hardcore being locked up and everything. This is a mental game. This is a mental situation, mental and spiritual. It'll break you. It's not just the physical aspects of it. And so I hope we get an understanding of that. And when people say that knowledge is key, this is not a cliche. This is true. The more knowledge that you have about a situation, the better you can go into it. So this is why we give out the information that we can. So going back to the youth, um, I was, speaking to another young man or whatever. I can't say he's that young. He's really not that old. He's in his 40s and everything. But again, you're young and age and all that wealth. I mean, health as well. You're only as old as you believe that you are. People always, talk about, man, you got platinum colored hair and everything. You're an old dude and all that kind of junk. And I'll run circles around some of you young fellas. But anyway, at the same time, the way that you feel, your brain, it gives off the energy that goes through your entire body. So if you think that you're old, if you think you're not good looking, if you think a funny face or whatever the case may be, then that's what you'll be because it's your perception. If you put that out, you can only, people can fake. Don't get me wrong. There are people who fake and, have con men and con women that's able to put out a facade of who they really truly are. We're good at putting up masks, no sweat. I understand that. But when you come into your own and you start to believe in who you truly are, those are the energies that you have to put out. If you believe yourself to be a bad person, that's how you will be perceived. And so we try to say the perception is nothing, but in many cases, before a person gets to truly know you, perception is everything. My father used to say, don't dress for the job that you want, dress for the job you're trying to get. And so, in other words, what that means is you're not about to go into no job interview looking just like a raggedy old street person. Not saying people with street person are all raggedy, but you don't go into that. You have to go into this job interview as though you want to. I'm showing pride within myself, so I would show pride within your company or your business or whatever I'm trying to get done. Whatever the case may be, it might not just be a job interview, but anyway, represent yourself to the best that you can represent yourself, and it doesn't take a lot of resources in order to do that. So in the case, going back to the dressing for the job that you want, it's just a part of life, whatever it is that you visualize. And a lot of times based on the way the system has treated the children with the whole school, so they don't teach us to dream anymore. They don't teach us to have vision. They don't teach you what to think. They don't teach you how to think. They teach you what to think. So if everybody's vision is what this particular dream is about, this is how things should be. If you get stuck in that box or what have you, and I'm not saying that that box doesn't work for doesn't work for some people, because I'm sure that it does. People, it does. But there's a purpose and there's a potential that was given to you when you came through when you was born. And so if you don't live out that potential, I think that's one of the worst jails or the worst hell that you can be, to be able to dream and have potentials that you never use. There was many times, like I said before and described, when you're in prison and you're really trying to do better for yourself, you're like a hamster on a wheel. It's because you're actually putting in the process, you're putting in the work, you're putting in whatever it needs to be done to make yourself better, but you can't showcase what you got. You can't showcase who you are. I mean, one of the questions that was asking me, when I was doing the thing with KU, was one of the questions was there a period of time during your incarceration where you thought you were at your peak? And I had to sit back and think about that, but I had thought about it before. There was I think that maybe after my 15th, 16th, 17th year or something there, if I would have been released at that time, I would have probably been better off than I am now, because I had got to a point where I was like very disciplined. I was doing this and I was saying, hey, let me roll, let me move on. And I was studying every day. I was doing, working out, I just believed that I was at the peak of my potential. However, someone else making the decisions for your life decided, we don't care about what you think about your potential. We don't care about if you think you can make it. We get to decide when we're going to release you from this jail cell hell. And so as that time went on, I lost a couple steps or whatever, but sure enough, just as you lost something, you can gain something. So I get those steps back. It's all good. Oh, brother Horace Bell, this is one of the young brothers that kept me in line to make sure, hey man, I'm looking up to you, man. If you make a step and everything, I'm gonna call you on that. It's a brother that I love. He said righteousness in motion. most definitely. Righteousness is emotion, but then on the other side of it, this motion can be done in unrighteousness, but it's about the consequences. It's about the purpose of you fulfilling your life. So if you do wrong things consecutive and continuously, maybe that's what you was put on the planet for. But are you truly fulfilled? They have millionaires, multi-millionaires that unalive themselves every day. They're not doing it because of lack of resources. They're doing it because possibly, and I don't know, I can't speak for them, but there's possibly something that's not fulfilled inside of them. So what is it that fulfills you? It could just be raising a child. That could be something that's so fulfilling to you, and that might be what you are put on the planet for, just for that purpose. But again, this whole thing, even this what we're doing now, is about purpose. We have to understand purpose. What is the reason? Everything has a purpose, even a chair. A chair has the purpose of giving you the opportunity to be able to sit down in it. So everything, even the smallest things, have a purpose. So even we talk about the gnat. If you look at the gnat, gnats, we seem to think that gnats are insignificant. It's gnats, the little bugs, and they're coming out right now. I just cut the grass earlier today, and these gnats, they're only significant. We don't think about gnats other than like when we laugh at how it's spelled, Gnat. How you get a G on the front of the word gnat? They don't have no G, but anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But gnats are insignificant until, like today, if you're cutting the grass, then they become significant because these gnats away. So everything is relevant, everything is significant, everything has a purpose. Make sure you understand your significance, your value, your purpose as a human being. So we also discussed, back to the young fellas. We also discussed Arrested Development. This was one of the first shows that we discussed, and we understand that again when we're talking about, I see you, low top D. I see you. So he says, let me get this. He says, so how do you determine what your purpose is? Again, the way that you determine what your purpose is through the study of yourself. And so you think that we people say, well, you got to study yourself, and we hear the word study, and that's like, oh, that's kind of could be overwhelming in and of itself. But studying yourself, it starts off as small as this thing. What do I like and what do I dislike? What do I like and what do I dislike? You should know what you like and what you dislike. You can start with that. And so then once you get to studying, I don't like this, this, and this, and I do like this and this. So how do you in yourself alleviate those things that you dislike about whether it be your life, about a product, anything? How do you get rid of those things and then enhance the things that you do like? And then you get to studying yourself and you find out, well, these things that I dislike are standing in the way of me not liking this. And so the next step after you figure out what it is, the next step after finding out what you like and what you dislike and how to make the one more so than the one that you dislike, get into conceptualized thinking. After you see that, then you realize what is it that is in myself? What is it that I can do with the personal self? Not something that's outside of me, but the personal self. What is it that I can do to make those likes, those things that I like, and make sure the things that you like don't make somebody else, I mean, or nothing, or not things that infringe on someone else's life. But once you get to studying those things, if it's whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever the case may be, it could just be relationship. If these are things that you like, you start to enhance them because the things that are inside of you that you like, that are truly part of your purpose, they will bring you joy, they will bring you happiness, they will bring you the abundance of things that are different from the things that you dislike. So the study of self, ask yourself, why do I think what I think? They Shakespeare had the quote, "To be or not to be." This is the question. I mean, why do I be? Why do I not want to be that? So, not to go into Shakespearean philosophy or anything like that, but ask yourself why you do the things that you do. This is a part of studying yourself. One of the things, I had a conversation with a person earlier, actually yesterday, last evening, and it was about therapy. And one of the things that was said was, we're like, we don't, therapy's, kind of like whatever. But you have to understand why you think the way that you think. And a lot of times, the thoughts that we have are trauma based. They come from trauma. They come from something bad that happens. One of the things that you learn when you're inside of incarceration, inside of prison, some of the biggest guys that act, foolish, the most foolish, we become scholars when we get in trouble. So all throughout the day, we just be having these thoughts. We do whatever we want to do. We don't give care about nobody else. But as soon as the man come down on us and we get caught, we become lawyers. We all in the rule books trying to find out if I file this and do this and everything like that. Well, if you would have thought of, that you didn't want to be in trouble when you were pulling out this rule book in the beginning, and you corrected your behaviors and you didn't do the things to get you to the point where you had to get into the rule book and try to figure out. And this is not to mean that people don't set you up, and it's not people mean to say that people don't give false raps. Because I'm not going to ever, say, yeah, that we should ever come, everything's going to be nice, because it's not always nice. But the point of the matter is, we become great scholars and we get great philosophers and great attorneys and Lex Breed. We get all this stuff when we're in trouble. I mean, even look at my life. One of the biggest things I remember, again, back to this organization that I'm talking about, reaching out from within, that I became a member of while I was incarcerated. The reason why that I was able to have to even get into that organization is because I didn't know who I was prior to even going to prison. I didn't understand. It's more about that arrested development. So I didn't know who I was. It took one of these organizations like this, and that's not the only one. Reaching out from within, I give you know, a lot of respect to them for the things that they did as far as dealing with me and putting me in positions and helping me get my voice to speak. I give them that. But there's so many organizations that I was a part of. But my main one was the African Awareness Organization. It's an organization that I was the director of when I left. And these are the brothers that I continue to go back side, to prison to see. But to answer the question, I'm saying, if you don't understand you, if you don't understand you, then that means that whatever is going on, hey, something fell and almost scared me. What kind of did. But anyway, I done got off track. I done got off track. But the point is, you have to truly get to understanding you, and you have to like you. And I was saying that a lot of this comes from trauma. Each and every thought that we have has an emotion that's connected to it. I'm not trying to be clinical. I'm not trying to be, again, a philosopher or a psychiatrist or anything, but everything has a thought. Some of us, most of us, move off of emotions, fortunately or unfortunately. I'm not saying sometimes your emotions and your gut feelings and your intuitions can get you out of situations where you try to think your way through and couldn't. So I'm not saying that spiritual aspects of things should be alleviated. What I'm saying is, when you have these certain thoughts, if you can understand why you have specific thoughts and the feelings that come with them, you can change those the way that you think about the thoughts that you have. So people always say, I can forgive but never forget. You'll never forget. Your mind always constantly remembers things. You may not be able to recall it, but you don't forget anything. But you can change the thoughts that you have. You can change the emotion that goes with it. I don't want to really give this example, but anyway, there's been examples of things where I would say, man, if a certain person do this, and that, they know what's going down, this, and that. But as I got wiser, as I got older, I got to change the feeling. It doesn't hurt my feelings. That's right. Scrap the film guru. Intelligence is the key. But how do we become intelligence? And the word intelligent has the word intel with inside of it. So intel, how do you gather the information about yourself specifically and firstly in order to become intelligent? We'll get deeper into that as well. So what I'm saying is, you can change the emotions that come with your thoughts. And one of the terrible things about being in prison is it will desensitize you. There's these feelings that you have. You say, man, I love this woman. I love much. I love, love, love. But as you go over and over and over, and you see that those emotions and those feelings, you want to like stifle those feelings. You know, um, it's in one of the reels. Yeah, I think one of the next reels that'll be coming about is talking about being strip searched. So you've heard me speak about this again, and I'll bring it up over and over because it's just something that just mind boggles me and a lot of us. And what the thing is like visitation. We're all happy when visitation comes. Times our family, our friends, our girlfriends, our wives, spouses, significant others are showing up to come and visit us. If someone take their time to come and visit room to see us, when visiting day comes, you can ask any of the brothers that you know or any person that you know that's incarcerated. This is a great time. We're waiting for the weekend or whenever your visit time may come. We want to have this visit. You go out to this visit. You have a great time with your family. You laugh. You joke. You're actually free for that moment, even though you have guards and officers that are watching you, making sure you don't hold hands too long or pass stuff or do whatever. You're free because you're with people who really know and love and care about you. But once that visitation is over, once you're finished visiting, you have to go in front of some other strange men, some officers, some people that work there, and you have to disrobe. You have to get naked in order for them to search you to make sure that you didn't bring, you have a whole bunch of stuff that you have to do. And this is degrading. I've said it before in another show, but this is degrading. So you have to change your mindset. I used to get frustrated like 5 minutes before my visit over because I know they was about to claw. Visitation's over, and I knew what I had to face. And my family could see that it's getting close to time for him to go. It gets a little frustrated and everything. In fact, I used to have a couple visitors that would let me go early, so I didn't have to stand in a line in order to be unclothed in front of a bunch of, in front of some men. So if you go by yourself and everything, you end your visit early. It means again, I'm cutting off some of my freedom in order for me not to be caught up in a line to get, looked at naked. So, with that being the case, I had to change my mindset about that. I had to say, because when I get mad at the end, knowing that I have to go be degraded, then that makes my family look around and dang, well, we're getting towards it. They're starting to feel unhappy. They're already unhappy that they have to leave me there, but now they become unhappy knowing that I'm about to be unhappy once I do that, and that carries on with them. So no problem. When it's my time to go and I do that and everything, chin up to my son, chin up to my daughter, my family, it's time to roll out and let's get this thing done. I mean, it's a part of the process, but I had to change the mentality, change the thought of it. You can change you can't change the thought because it's going to happen, but you can change the emotion that's connected to that. I'm not going to get all of my feelings and go in there and tense up and everything, which makes them mad, makes them possibly want to laugh and joke and make the process even worse. A lot of times when we show our emotions to people and everything, if they're not a good person, they'll take advantage of that. Brother Robert Bransberg asked, why do our children, why children are the future? Our future is dictated by what we do today. If we do, if we do seek change today, and tomorrow is our future, then move into our future, move into that future, chasing the same things that we chasing yesterday. These long ones be, getting me. Changed yesterday. Me, and you, and everyone on this site are our future. Correct? Are our future are our future. Tomorrow is not promised to us, any of us. So only what we do today will last. So today is our future. That's right. One of the things that I've learned about, again, about time, is the past, the present, and the future. They don't disconnect. You don't have a past. You don't live right now today, and then tomorrow's a whole separate thing. Past, present is like a circle again. Past, present, and future all are the same. Again, what happens in your past dictates your present, future. So the brother is correct. If we focus on today, what's happening with us today, and make the change that we necessarily change that we need, then that can move us to a brighter future, no doubt. But what I mean when I say our children are our future is because if we start to work on, if we think about our future and how we want a future brighter, a better future, and we work with our children now, it can help to create the brighter future later. Another thing that people, and I'm not, again, this is not to browbeat anyone to say you didn't know this, look what I did, what I do know, and you don't know, and everything. We have two selves. We're talking about studying yourself. We have two selves. We have an individual self, that's the individual person right here. And we have a collective self. We always try to separate ourselves from the collective. Nobody lives on an island. I mean, there are probably some people that do and everything, but we're social people, and we live amongst, others on the planet. I mean, it's rare that, I mean, there's people that maybe live off grid, live in the mountains, that only deal with themselves and their family. So I'm not saying there's always an exception to some type of rule, but the past, the present, and the future is also dictated with, I mean, comes with the past, present, and future of yourself as well as the collective. I'll give an example. If you live in a neighborhood that's trashy, that's nasty, that's filthy, that's dirty, that has children running around in diapers and not being cared for, and all this stuff that's going on, you can have yourself together, but that environment, we know, especially of those who've been incarcerated and done time behind those walls, your environment can greatly live in filth all the time, if you live in the filthy, then that's going to keep your mind cluttered because you got to work your way through the filth and then all, it's just a lot of stuff. So if you start to work with the young guys, if you start working with the young people as a collective, and you start to clean up your neighborhood, that creates a better future for that neighborhood. So you're saying, okay, we got some paper to clean up, the people to cut the grass. That what is that? Well, if you go deeper into this, and you can get to some people that are smarter than I am when it comes to the whole social, political, economical thing, but you get your mate and you get your neighborhood and your community together, and people will start investing in that community. Who wants to build a store, on the corner of a place where they could possibly be unalive just walking back and forth to the store? But that comes with one mind coming to it with another mind, and those collective minds and energy start to synergize, and then you decide to go out and do stuff in your own community. And so, anyway, the safety and the environment of the community could help the children to become a better future as well. We have to remember that we are an examples. One of the things about the brother HB that just popped up on the show and everything, I had to be an example for him. I didn't always make the right choices. I didn't make the always thing, but I tried to guide this brother with the knowledge that was given to me. Somebody passed it to me. I had to pass it to him. He had to pass it to those who came after him. So that's the way those things happen. So yes, sir, it's very true. Our future is right now today. I call it the ever present now, the ever present now, past, present, and future infused. This is what I'm speaking about. This is what I'm saying. past, present, and future, you are you. You're not a you. Of course, hopefully you evolve, but the same person that you were yesterday, day, tomorrow, and I'm not necessarily talking about the thinking, but you can only be you. You are you. Whether you fake and put up facades and pretend to be something different in the night in that dark cell back all by yourself when you're a long time and you have to actually look at and face you, you know who you are. You know what's real, what your likes and dislikes are. You know where you're going. You know what you want to do, and you know what you don't want to do. You know you. No person should know you better than you. But I also understand, and what I've gained is understand there are some people that really truly don't can go through a day without truly thinking about anything. So you say, well, how can you not? There's a difference between having thoughts and thinking. Thoughts are going to come in all day long. Just the thoughts come from experience. Anytime you see something, anytime you do something, there's thoughts going on, thoughts going on. And you may sit back and ponder those thoughts, but thinking is when you take those, like the brother used the term infuse, and putting those thoughts together. So I can say, all right, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to prison. Um, what'll stop me from going to prison if I get a job? Once I get the job, then maybe okay. So let's take it away from that outside stuff. How do you feel most happy? What makes you feel the best that you do? I mean, feel good in the best manner that you can. What is that? When you start to understand, like myself, my thing is teaching. You know, my significant other always says to me, you talk too much. You're always talking. I mean, she says it in jest sometimes, but sometimes I do get on her nerves. So she, probably means that. But she's not the only one. My father used to always says, well, okay, wait. Before you start this story, how old are you when you start telling me this? And how old are you going to be when you finish telling me this? Because I can go. But one of the things that they don't realize and everything is being raised as an only child. If I had to use some of my personal experience as an only child, I had to create my own environment. I had to create my own playmates. I had to create, so I had a great imagination. So when I think about stuff, I think in depth. I think about things. Sometimes I overthink, which can be a problem as well. If you're not doing anything with the thoughts that you're having. But I think, and as I think, I want to share what I think. So I talk. I'm a writer, so I don't look at, when I write something, I don't look at it as like serious pictures. I mean, I don't look at it as sentences, commas, grammar. I don't look at it like that. I see a vision of what it's supposed to be. Like most artists and producers and movie makers, Scrap can help you with this. But as I do those type of things, so when I see, I dream in color and I dream big. And so as I start to see these things and I get excited about telling you something, when I could have just said, I walked to the corner store. In my mind, I walked to the corner store. There was a brick on the ground. I see, that's the way I see things. I don't know if the term's eclectic or whatever it is. Somebody can help me with it later, but there are lots of things that I see when I'm just walking to the store, and I just get overexcited and I speak about those things. And sometimes I get lost, like now I get to talking and forget what I was even discussing. But the brother was talking about, where was it? But the brother was talking about, infusing past, present, future, and how we see things. Somebody's laughing at me. That's okay. So Eric Bronson says, has there been a time when you gave up hope and decided to just stay in prison? If so, what one thing changed your mind? Yes, sir. There was a period of about 10 years where I gave up. From like 2010 to like 2020, I just gave up. I lost hope. I said, this is going to be my final resting place. I found a new drug that came into the prison, and I started using that, and I used it for the entire time. I found out that I got to the point where I would start telling stories to my family in order to make sure that I had specific monies that I might have needed. I did some, other things to people in order to get this drug. So yes, for about 10 years, I gave up hope. I said, man, this is what it is. So I'm just gonna get high. When I get upset, I'm gonna fight people. When I, don't get my way with the officers, then I'm gonna, file something to do whatever I need to be do just to get on other people's nerves. So I became a snot. Actually, the first time I ever heard the term terrorist. I am not talking about, what was going on in Desert Storm and overseas. An officer called me a terrorist once. And so at first I laughed it off. Yeah, okay, yeah, I got some more coming later. Yeah. And I got to thinking about that. This man says like a terrorist. So I couldn't Google it. So I had to go to a dictionary. And this is a person who calls terror, person who calls terror to others or groups of others. And I was like, I don't really, again, going back into who I truly am, I'm really not that person. But because I was so hurt and I was so disappointed in my conviction and all the other things that was going on in my life, a loss of a loved one, loss of several loved ones, a loss of being in love with a person I thought I was in love with. And, we'll get into relationships another day. I lost hope. I just gave up. I let anger consume me. So yes, there was a period of time when I can't really say that I just wanted to stay there because I will tell you, and this is, something I even say to myself. from the time that got locked in the cell the very first time, when I got arrested, got locked, and they shut that door after about maybe 24 to 36 hours. I went to the I said, hey man, I'm claustrophobic. I don't think I'm supposed to be in here. I think y'all gotta let me go. I need to go to the hospital, so I'm claustrophobic. Dude looked at me and said, everybody that gets locked up is claustrophobic. So I'm like, I can't get no relief. I can't just like let me out to go outside or breathe a little bit and see if I can run or something. But anyway, um, so after about 36 hours or whatever, I didn't decide what I was going to do, but I knew I did not like being incarcerated. I didn't like being locked up. There's never been a day we say, okay, this is cool, man. Of course we tell ourselves things that we'll get through this. You can get through this, but I never liked being locked up. I never liked being in a cell. It hurt my feelings every single day, because one thing for those who know, if you don't live in a dorm area, if you live actually in a cell, there's only one side of the bed you can wake up on, one side of the bed. Ain't no, well, I'm gonna get off on the good side, or I'm gonna get off on the bad side. Every single day, the side of the bed you get off is the wrong side and the bad side. And I recognized that early on. So I never, 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 never liked every single day. Now people will say, well, if that's the case, you was in there having fun, you was breaking the rules, you was getting high, you was doing a lot of things. Hey, those were things that I had to do to cope with the situation that I was in, the way my mind was at that particular time. So again, we're talking about evolution. Even though I'm the same person that I was from conception all the way to now, I'm still that person, but I evolved in many areas. And there may be some areas that I devolved, who knows? But well, I would know. I know. Maybe you might not know, but I know that I still have hangups, especially when we're talking about, post traumatic stress disorder and institutionalization. I know a lot of times people hear and talk about guys coming out of prison. They say, well, you shouldn't have did what you did to go there. But the truth of the matter is, and everything, you could commit a crime and go to prison. Once you get inside of that, it's kind of like addiction. Nobody usually gets high. I'm gonna get high so I can get addicted. That's what I want to do. I want to sell my clothes. I want to do all my stuff. So I would be addicted. I want to do that. No one usually does that. Now maybe there's some rare person that does that, but don't. Well, when you go to jail, just because you committed a crime, that doesn't make jail any more easier. It doesn't make it easier. I did that. I stood on that. I committed that crime. I mean that. I ain't taking that back. I feel no remorse. Bam. Now I'm in a cell. That don't make it easier because you admit to it. That don't make it easier because you can do the time. That doesn't make it easier, because the truth of the matter is, to do time, all you got to do is wake up and go to sleep. I mean, if that's the bare essentials of it. So it's not like people can't. And I've seen some of the men that we would probably consider to be some of the weakest in resolve, some of the weakest men ever, and they made it through 10, 15 years of prison. So it's not about just the being tough, being hard, being strong. It's not about that. It's about the mentality. And so with your mindset, if you get to a mindset that says, I just want to stay in prison, people have done that. They've had men that there's actually like, so many times people tell me, man, you did 35 and a half years in prison, man. That's a long time. Hey, I've met two men, and there's one still alive that's running. Well, actually, both of them are still alive, but one's back incarcerated. But one of them is on the Washington, D.C. I had to get a shout out to Brother Sly and Brother Mansa Musa. Those brothers up there from the D.C. area and all that, because they're doing some great things. And hopefully we'll have, them on it sometime too. But I know a man's done 52 years. So my little 35, you think that's, a lot. But they got men that's done half a centuries in prison. That's why this is so important that you get this out there. When I say they're giving our babies uh Andy, man, they'll give a 16-year-old 250 something years and not blink and go to sleep and it won't mean nothing. So when we talking about children being the future, if we talking about if you do the same things you've always done, you do the same things you always got, you got to do something different. And even if that means helping somebody else, that's something different, When we look into the social media world, we look into the rap world, we look into some of the music world and the movies and all that kind of stuff. Again, we're such individualistic people. We don't care about helping somebody else. You know, we don't care about it. But then you get into a system. Remember, again, when you go into the prison system, it ain't you versus the judge. It ain't just you versus the district attorney, your file partner, you against some witness and everything. You up against the entire state. If you're doing state time, if you look into a law book, it says the state of Kansas versus bam, the state of Kansas versus this. And on the federal level, please understand this will be redundant. I will say some things over and over, whatever. But on the federal level, it says your name against the United States government. So there's a system that fights against you. If you're not willing to fight a system, I mean, some of us were, gang members and we like fought 10 on 10, 5 on 5. But when you got a system that you're into that's over your state, and then if you fight and go all the way to the Supreme Court and all that, then they got a thing they call the United States Supreme Court, and you got to go way up to Washington, D.C. They're not going to physically take you there, but your case goes way up there. and you have to fight there. So what I'm saying is this whole situation is it's bigger than an individual. So if it takes, we always talk that each one teach one. We talk that it takes a community. It truly does. If you want to help a young person, not to go into that place, to help us with to have a better future, then it's going to take more than just one or two people to do that. Sometimes when we was doing our little group efforts when we're inside of prison. You understand what I'm saying? We're doing little group stuff, whatever. Sometimes you like the big homie or the person that was, if you want to call him OG or, the shot caller or whatever, he may come and put the rule down. Hey man, this is what you ain't doing. But it would take some other dudes that might have to implement that. Like, listen, big homie, OG, whoever said don't do that, and we see you still doing that. So we gonna come together and we're gonna violate you, or we're gonna do whatever, right on, brother Maurice. I see you, LZ Goodwin. I see you, you good brothers and everything. Good. Catch up with me, LZ, so we can get that haircut barbershop thing. We can start to you know, put that out there. I know you're doing your thing by yourself, but I'm saying, hey, again, I help you, you help me, we help each other. That's what it's about. So I know I got lost in thought. Sometimes I think a little faster than I speak, but sometimes I think a little faster than I think. You know, but again, I try to hope that I can get anything that I can, let me see, we got something right here, righteousness in motion. Yes, I hope that there's something that I've said in this live stream that could help somebody, because even me seeing where your questions are going, everything, it helps me to think of things too. When you teach a person, you also learn the stuff that you're teaching somebody by the answers that they give, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent. It's a way to help you to be able to learn, learn as well. So do what you have to do. I mean, there's ways of teaching. Last week when I was speaking about, speaking to the youth and everything, we have to use the language that they can understand. We so stuck on this, but this divide, type of thing where there it's us against them. It's the youth, and then it's the elders and all that kind of junk. At one time, the people that are old were the people that were young, and someday that the people that are young are going to be the people that's old. So again, if we do the same things we've always done, we'll get the same things that we've always gotten. We have to be able to get to a area where we say, I'm sick and tired. Just like in prison, I had to stretch of not caring, being high. I had to get tired. I had to do an evaluation for my parole, the other day. And the lady asked me, she said, well, what made you decide to change your life and do something different? I gave her the simplest answer. Like, I got tired. I got tired of doing the same old things over and over and over and over and getting the same results. And it did nothing to help me. It just kept going backwards and backwards. Some of the reason that I did the length of time that I did, it wasn't just because of the system, just because the system wanted that, because they truly had to decide. But you had to give them something to help you decide to, give you another chance and everything. And I wasn't doing that. I was making all type of mistakes, doing all that kind of thing. And a lot of it again came from trauma and hurt. I'm so angry. I'm just gonna keep hitting this wall, hitting this wall, hitting this wall, hitting this wall. Well, after 30 something years of hitting that wall, thank goodness for, there's a lot of people that helped me. But thank goodness for Lamont McIntyre coming in there telling me, man, you don't have to will yourself out of prison. I thought that man was incredibly crazy for telling me something like that. But if my will wasn't correct, if my spirit and my thoughts wasn't correct about getting out of prison, it doesn't matter what kind of lawyer would have came, what kind of appeal would have showed up. If I wasn't ready for that, the universe wasn't ready for me to have that, I would have squandered it like I've done so many other things. So as we close and end this, I again appreciate everyone who's sent in questions, facts, information, people that have asked questions. I appreciate you, and we'll continue to roll with this. But I want to give out a couple of what I call them call them the lock-ins. These are some people that you probably should lock into to see where they're possibly going with this type of information and what they're doing as well. So we got memorymademusic.com. Check into that. That's a pretty nice thing that's up and coming. I won't even say anything more about it. Just check it out. Memorymademusic.com. And I'll mess this up. This is my cousin's transportation company, and it's Nashays Elegant Transports. It's basically based out of Minnesota, but look on his website. He keeps a lot of little different things that you might want to pay attention to. Dark Knight KC, you want to look at that. His Immortal Order book series. The brothers, like, again, expand your mind, go out to places, get out of your comfort zone, looking at life in specific ways. There's so many different avenues and ways that you can think about life and see different things. We're talking to young men, we trying to tell them, encourage them to read, 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 read. It doesn't necessarily have to be no psychology book. Read some books that'll take your mind away from there. Even if you're reading Hansel and Gretel, or reading something. I start off with Iceberg Slim and Donald Goings, but eventually it went over to what I was talking about, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Malcolm X, and many others. And speaking of which, the book I was talking about, The New Jim Crow, was by Michelle Alexander. I couldn't get that out the last time, but cool. Final, we said clear tomorrow, KC, expungement and community work. That's something the Scrap the Film Guru came up. Matter of fact, if you go to his podcast, it's under Breakout Media, YouTube. It's usually, well, he'll have to tell you when the days are because, like, right now, he's kind of reestablishing things and everything. But that's Scrap the Film Guru through Breakout Media. Check him out on YouTube. So, in the final thoughts to end this for the day, I just want to always reiterate the reason I do these things and the reason I say what I say and do what I do as far as with this podcast. Of course, it's a dream come true because it started off with me wanting to write a book to help others. That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to always get it right. I'm not going to always say the things. And if there's something that I say that you either didn't understand or you might find to be correct, I don't have a problem with you checking my record, calling me to the carpet. I don't have, man, for real. You talked about them little sack lunches. Them sack lunches is good, man. I had pudding in mine one time and everything. I dig them sack lunches. If that's the case and everything, you want to express yourself, I'm not thin skinned. Pop up on here. Let me know what you think about and I'll tell you what I think about what you think about. And that's how it goes from there. So we're going to have to draw this to a close. We got a certain amount of time to do a certain thing. I know that I talk fast, but maybe you should listen a little quicker. So to end this, we have to go out with our theme music like we usually do. And again, thank you all. We're always talking about peace and peace and peace. This is about peace. Well, unity is like this. So when you start giving up that sign, give up peace like this, man. Bring us together. We've been far apart too long. Let's come together. All right. Thank you for your time and consideration and coming into the understanding of Concrete University. I hope that we can continue to move forward. Thanks and shouts out to everybody. And here we go. Outro. Yeah. Check it out. And we're going to excel and try to be free. It's Concrete University. Thank you. No before you enroll. Peace, Scrap. Listen up to Dean XL, be free. And you will know before you go, never have to see how prison can really be. Listen, learn and practice consistency. This is prison literacy 101. All right, bro. Maurice Harris, we need to get together. Yeah, this is prison literacy. Yeah.